It's Tuesday, March 12th. I'm Geoff Schwartz. It's Geoff Schwartz this morning. You were live on Twitter, YouTube, and we're on your favorite podcast platform of choice. Welcome into our, free agency recap. But even though free agency hasn't really actually begun, Matt, there's been a bunch of deals signed in the tampering period, which is a period where you can agree to a deal but not actually sign it until free agency officially begins later this week. We'll cover it all. Some big moves. And Matt, you know what? I'm going to go on a limb after the moves have been announced, which have been a lot. Cousins to Atlanta, we'll talk about that. Russell Wilson to Pittsburgh. Brian Burns getting traded to the Giants. Still some moves to be made. While we're talking, I saw a tweet about Snead possibly being traded. Drew Lock to sign with the Giants. I feel comfortable in saying, Matt, I'm still picking the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl next season. So I'll go on a limb there and say I'm still doing it, buddy. What do you think?
You know, I was talking to somebody in our office the other day. Hi, by the way. That
Hello,
the NFL's starting to feel a bit more like the NBA right now. Like, you know, in the NBA, there's just some teams that come into the season and they feel very like eyes wide open that they suck. Like, that's not usually how it feels in the NFL. Like, because there are teams like the Texans every year that can go from worst to, almost winning 2 playoff games. So, but it does feel like there's this sort of specter of the Chiefs kind of looming over the league. And it feels like the top teams are sort of trying to make their moves, like whether they're good or not. Like, we'll get to Saquon Barkley, but it does kind of feel like everyone's sort of very aware of the gravitational pull of the Chiefs right now. I don't really know how to explain that, but it does feel like teams aren't making like the big swings that they sometimes do to convince themselves that they could actually win the Super Bowl.
Well, I don't know how many swings there are to be made. I mean, Atlanta made the swing, right? So Atlanta signed Kirk Cousins, which was the rumor out of the combine, and it ended up happening. That's where, by the way, guys, this tampering period, we joke about that, where starting Monday at noon, teams were allowed to talk to players or agents or both. And deals got announced immediately because they've been talking for weeks, right? I mean, the combine is where this starts. Next year, I'm going to the combine for sure. I've talked to my wife about it. It's happening. Yeah? I'm going to go. Yeah.
Is the LLC paying for that, or?
It should. My buddy Duke always goes. He invites me to go. I'm going to go. It'd be fun. And Cousins to the Falcons. So here's my thoughts on this. It's a 4-year deal, essentially a 2-year deal for about $100 million. That's sort of what it's at. And that, maybe maybe 90 million, somewhere around there. But, it's not the top end of the market. It's not the bottom end, sort of in the middle. I think it makes him the highest, 7th highest paid, which actually average per year puts him right where I think Patrick Mahomes is at. Obviously coming off an Achilles tear, but not a mobile quarterback. So maybe it doesn't matter as much in his recovery that he can just stay in the pocket. But there's different levels to what organizations want to be in the National Football League, Matt, right? We know this. Some want to win a championship. Some are okay making the playoffs. Some will get to Pittsburgh are just okay at times, just being competitive, right? Atlanta has not been to the postseason since 2017. They look at their division. They see Baker Mayfield re-sign with the Bucs. I like that deal for him and for Tampa Bay. They see Bryce Young and whatever the Panthers are, which might have the worst roster in the NFL, and Derek Carr, who's not good, and it's the Saints, right? Who keep having to cut players and restructure deals because they refuse to admit that salary cap was a real thing. And the Falcons say, look, we're young at running back. We're young at tight end. We're young at receiver. We got some pieces on defense. Let's get ourselves a quarterback that gets us to the playoffs. Cousins, if healthy, and it's a decent if. He's a 36-year-old off an Achilles injury. Matt, get them to the playoffs. You're the Falcons hosting a home playoff game the next 2 seasons, which should be the goal. That means you win your division. Is a win, in my opinion. Is it the Super Bowl? No. But the other thing to consider here, Matt, is they're drafting 8th overall this season. And if they get J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, Michael Penix at 8, that's way too high, in my opinion, for them, even though McCarthy might go that high, is that now you kind of have 1 or 2 years to see if those guys are good. You're wasting London and Pitts and Bijan and Algier on these cheap contracts, right? They're rookie contracts right now. You're wasting them by getting a young quarterback and seeing if that guy has it. You know what Cousins can do. You're buying a known commodity right now. So look, are they winning the Super Bowl with him? No, but they're division winners, home playoff games. Maybe things get right and you're hot and you make a playoff run. So that's why the signing to me makes a lot of sense. I like the location. I like the offense for him. They're going to run that Rams offense, quarterback friendly offense, and overall, Matt, I think I do like what the Falcons did.
Yeah. This is such a tricky thing to, I mean, it's like, did they get better? Totally. But I've been on all sides of the Kirk Cousins experience as a Washington fan. And, I remember when he was, he was going to walk in free agency. And I remember thinking like, man, what are we going to do if we lose Kirk Cousins? And then I was like, well, what do we do if we keep Kirk Cousins? Like,
Yeah.
what are you getting really? And I think that, I agree. Like, he's a nice player. I think their floor is now much higher. If Desmond Ridder is as bad as people, think he was, then this could actually genuinely be a really good team, right? Like an underrated defense. Obviously, we know about all the offensive firepower. We'll see if, a new offense, a new coach, the McVay system, like you mentioned, sort of unlocks them. But like, the whole NFC South again is still kind of the same, minus the Panthers. Like now there's 2 number 1 overall picks. There's $300 million plus quarterbacks, and none of those teams is even a threat to make it to the NFC Championship. Like not even close. Like it'd be shocking, I think. So I think that I feel like I'm happy for Cousins. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch, but it's funny you mentioned that they could take a quarterback at 8. Like I don't think that would be smart, but I think they have to admit, this is not a long-term solution. Like Cousins, we don't even know if he's going to come back and be as good. Like we think so, right? Like we've seen other athletes come back from Achilles, but Kevin Durant about the same age as Cousins. But I don't know, man. Like he could take a step back, and
that's the risk.
Yeah. So but what's the upside? So it's like I get the move. I like it, but I'm just not sure what they got.
To me, again, the upside is your expectations move, I guess, from with a rookie quarterback. Well, I hope it goes well in year 1. Maybe he's ready in year 2. To if you get Cousins at 85, 90%, because it's hard to be 100% off an Achilles injury in year 1 at that age, you get a playoff team. And for some owners and coaches, that's good enough. If you're Raheem Morris, you're like, I'll take a playoff team. I'll take a playoff team each year. Sure. Fine with me, which again is a totally okay way to look at this thing. If you're the Falcons, just we're a playoff team, got a home playoff game, we're competitive, we're ready to go. I understand that from the Falcons. Totally get it. What I don't understand is the Pittsburgh Steelers decided to do this with Russell Wilson. Yeah. Pittsburgh, Matt, should be a team that is always striving for a Super Bowl. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, they have 6, right? The most, 5. I believe they have the most, 5 or 6. Doesn't matter. They win a lot of Super Bowls. They are, of course, we know the record, right? Under Tomlin, they have yet to have a season under 500. They're always striving to win Super Bowls. They're in the playoffs a lot. Russell Wilson does nothing to get him to a Super Bowl. It's a 1-year deal. I understand Pittsburgh going, ooh, he's cheap. He's $1.1 million and they're paying the rest. But he's not good. And so you were 10-7 last season. You're probably 10-7 again this year at best. Matt, in August, we preview our divisions, right? We do this every August. We love doing these shows. We pick most often the team with the best quarterback to win the division because that's who wins divisions. At best, Russell Wilson, if everyone's healthy, is 3rd in the division behind Lamar and Joe Burrow. If Deshaun Watson is any good, he's 4th in division, right? With the Steelers team that they just signed Patrick Queen, that's great and all, but they have a bunch of holes, I think, still in their roster. They're not up to the level now of where they're even Super Bowl caliber. Wouldn't this be the year, Matt, to step back? You have to decide at some point if you're the Steelers that, yes, being competitive is a hallmark of what we do, but we got to find that answer at quarterback. We're never going to be Super Bowl competitive without a quarterback. And they either have to drop back for a year, go 4-13, right? Sort of rebuild on the fly, or just trade up and say, this is the year we're doing it. We're trading to 3 for New England's pick and taking a quarterback. The Russell Wilson thing, we're going to be in the same exact position next season. We're going to be sitting here talking about free agency. What do the Steelers do? They need a veteran quarterback because they're drafting 16th again. So they have to decide at some point, we got to go for it. And the other thing, too, is when you sign a quarterback like Russell Wilson of his age, you kind of want to sign the leadership part of him too, right, Matt? Do we hear a lot of stories out of Seattle, out of Denver, from offensive linemen, from his running back, from his wide receiver, of like, man, great leader. I'm bummed it didn't work out, but dude's a leader, man. Like, he's got it. No, we don't hear any of that. So you're signing a guy for $1 million, great deal. Don't get me wrong, great value for the third best quarterback in division and for a single season. And he's not even like the greatest leader of all time. I don't get what they're doing, man. You got at some point you have to go for it at quarterback. Until you do it, you're never going to be what you want to be.
I agree. I will say though, like, what were their options? Like,
their options are to suck next season.
I don't think that's really an option because I think their roster is good enough. Like, and clearly, you know, it's like the Falcons could have said the same thing, right? Like the Falcons could have said, like, well, let's just suck and run it back with Ritter and like get a better pick next year, maybe. Like they could have done that with Pittsburgh. Like Pittsburgh has a Super Bowl level defense, and they've added strength to strength again. Like this is what they do. It's like, oh, we don't have a quarterback, but we'll add a 10th linebacker. I think I actually I can't believe I'm saying this. I actually kind of liked this. And the reason why is I don't think they had a lot of options available to them in terms of taking that big quarterback swing. So if you can't take a huge quarterback swing, like don't give up all your draft capital for Justin Fields. Like don't move up and take, you mentioned the third pick. It's like to get the third best rookie quarterback in the class. Like, I don't know if that's worth like setting your whole team back. And like, if you're going to bottom out, like you have to really think about what that means. Like, you're going to move TJ Watt. Like TJ Watt guarantees you like 6 wins. You know what I mean? Like that defense is going to be good enough no matter what. Like Pickens and that running attack, like last year was supposed to be the bad year and they still went 10-7. So I think with Wilson, like I agree with everything you said. The 1-year deal gives them the out. They have nothing invested here. If this works, great. They have a solution for another year or two. If it doesn't, they're on to next year and they can postpone this and probably do the same thing next year, but at least it gives them some outs. But I will say, like, this feels like a bit of a bit of a flex from Tomlin. Like Mike Tomlin, I think he's got to be irritated that, you know, every year Pittsburgh fans are sort of like, what are we doing with this guy? Like he gets us to 10-7 and then we get murdered in the playoffs in the first round every year. Like that's the team. I kind of feel like this is his reclamation project. Like Russell Wilson, I think his problem is as much personal as it is ability on the field. And so if you're Tomlin, you're saying like, I can fix this guy. Like I can turn him into, this is a guy who like had Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell in the same locker room. Like maybe maybe he's the coach that can kind of get something different out of Wilson. And that's kind of one of the reasons they decided to do this. If so, I kind of like it a little more, but I'm curious what you think.
Well, I think coaches that have roster personnel, basically decision making, right? Like they're allowed to do the roster. They're always going to lean toward sort of win now to save their job, which is not only what Tolman's doing, but the idea is like, okay, well, Russell Wilson will get us 10 wins. I keep my job. You know, like we keep being competitive. I'd rather do that, maybe not win a Super Bowl, than suck, and potentially get fired and coach a young quarterback. Maybe Tomlin doesn't want to coach a young quarterback anymore. Maybe he just wants veterans. I want a veteran each year. I'm tired of coaching young guys. That's certainly possible as well. But I just don't think this advances Pittsburgh past their goal. And it's going to suck for us, Matt, personally, when we bet the Steelers over this season. We're going to have to root for Russell Wilson.
Yeah, we're going to have to do that. I mean, I just like Russell Wilson last year. Like, I want to point to this little stretch where he beat Green Bay. The Broncos beat Green Bay. He didn't have like great passing numbers. Like they beat the Chiefs in that weird game that sort of turned the Chiefs season around, I think.
Yeah.
Went to Buffalo, went 24-29 for 2 touchdowns, no picks, only 193 yards, beat Minnesota. They had a 5-game win streak where they beat Green Bay, Kansas City, Buffalo, Minnesota, and Cleveland. Like, pretty good stretch. And he didn't play amazing. He's not the Russell Wilson he used to be. But as the season kind of progressed, it was clear Sean Payton didn't want to work with him. We'll see how that goes. I don't really know what their plan is at quarterback right now. but he had some stretches and he carried the ball a little better. Like I agree. I think they're still the third or fourth best team in that division, but if I'm Pittsburgh, like I don't really know what the other options are. And I don't know if you can take this wherever you want, but I really want to talk about what the Bears can do here now,
Oh,
because
let's do it.
I think the Justin Fields thing is now like, what is going on there? I feel like the Bears, it's very possible that they brutally mismanaged this, because the market for Justin Fields, as we look at this now, like who are the teams left that realistically would make a move of a second or even third round pick for Justin Fields at this point, right? Like Atlanta got their guy. They're not trading him to Minnesota, so we can take them out of it. Like it seems like the Raiders are going to go with Minshew, which I doubt we'll even talk much about. It doesn't really seem like there's an obvious fit. Like maybe it's Denver, but if Denver's bidding against themselves, they're not going to do another huge trade for all these assets at quarterback. So I'm curious what you think happens with Fields.
All right. Well, there's so many things involved here. One is his contract, right?
Yeah.
So his 5th-year option will be declined, and he has 1 more year to go. If you trade for him and he plays mildly well, you're probably going to extend him, which is kind of scary. You're in the Daniel Jones range, where you give a guy $40 to $50 million a year, and it's just not that good. But Matt, I think the most important thing here, he's not a good quarterback. He's just not good. Like, I don't know what else to say. He had a negative EPA last season, and that includes his ability to run the football. Negative EPA. He was 26th or 24th, 22, something in QBR and quarterback rating. Matt, I know the quarterback wins. We're analytics guys. I do think sometimes it gets a little bit insane, but I like it, right? We're analytics people. We follow it. We use it. But quarterback wins, I understand, not the favorite of analytics people. I get it. It doesn't always show the entire picture. I'm on board with that. However, Fields is 10 and 28 as a starter.
Yep.
Like at some point, it's like, that's who he is. He's not good. He's just not good. And what shocks me is Bears fans that look at this and think they should keep him over Caleb Williams. Yep. Y'all are freaking crazy. If I tell you that you traded the number 1 pick last season, okay, and in return, you got Darnell Wright, your right tackle, DJ Moore, Caleb Williams, and Roma Dunze at 9 in the basically the top of the draft plus 1 free agent guy, not one guy you traded for. You'd be like, hell yes! If I told you this 2 years ago, you'd be jumping for joy that that's what you received in the last 2 drafts, essentially, plus the addition of DJ Moore. You'd be overjoyed if that was the result. If you're the Bears and you're serious about winning, you cannot pass up having the number 1 pick in 2 straight drafts and leave without a quarterback, especially with how good Stroud played last season. Now, you might have drafted Bryce Young last year, so let's not, but then this year, you have Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and Caleb Williams at the top of the draft. And look, I don't think all are talents are transforming your franchise right away. Drake May and Jaden Daniels probably takes them. Caleb Williams is really freaking good, Matt. And like to pass on him for a guy 3 years, he's played 3 years now, 10 and 28, Matt. 10 and 28. His best season, negative EPA. Expected points added, by the way. So, that again, like the good quarterbacks have better EPAs. It doesn't sort terribly well, but like I use Ben Baldwin's website, RBSDM, and I'm going to pull up right now. But, like if you combine the completion percentage above expected and the EPA, Fields is like 21. You combine those with a negative EPA. Oh.
Yeah, it's not great, Geoff.
His completion percentage above expectation is where's it at? It's 0.8.
It's not good. So I mean, I think honestly the Bears at this point should probably just keep Fields. Like yes. I don't think that you should trade him for like whatever. Like I don't think that they should be so desperate to move him and to placate Caleb. I do think every year, unfortunately, come August, there is one of those quarterback injuries. There's one of those like late breaking, like, oh, wait a second. Like, let's just like put I forget who it was last year. I want to say it was Minshew. Like there were these just like random like backup guys that come in and like end up mattering.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco, obviously in the middle of the season this year is a great example. So I would hold on to him. I think also like there's now it feels like there isn't really a scarcity because everybody has their option. There will
Yeah.
be. So I would hold on to him and let
Yes.
people try to talk themselves into him over longer. But 100% like this Caleb, like anybody who's talking themselves out of Caleb Williams is crazy. Um, but I don't know. I think they kind of blew this. Like I think it seems like they're kind of like waiting to
I, I,
see if
I don't think
go
they
ahead.
have. I don't think they have. I don't think they have yet. There's because to me, anything you get for him is fine. Like like just what do you expect to get? A second round pick, a third round pick? I don't
Yeah,
think you're
a
getting a pick
second
in
rounder
this.
for sure. I
I
mean,
don't. I don't
I think
think. I
they
don't think
thought
you're getting. I don't think you're getting a pick for him in this draft. To put it like that. Like
wow.
you.
I
Like I
think
think.
they
I
thought they were getting a first. Like I really think they thought they were doing that. I think their fans thought first or maybe second, like
the
but
fans are
hoping
crazy.
against hope that first was in play. And like I think the contract is a big part of it, right? Like you're basically getting a year and then you have to make a decision, which is tough. But I don't know, man. I think that they missed their opportunity here. Like if they had made the trade, it seems like they're kind of just still like not sure if Caleb is their pick. Like it just doesn't it seem like there's still
Okay.
this like weird
Well,
dynamic floating around.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. He
You
hasn't
want
done a
some
physical
whitewash?
yet. Hasn't done a physical yet. He's done a physical yet, Matt. Like they cannot trade Fields in my opinion until they have a physical in Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is probably perfectly fine. You don't know that yet. What if you do a thorough examination, you find a congenital problem in his body somewhere? You don't know. That's why the physicals are there. And so they might have suitors, but just hold on to him. Hold on to him. Wait till someone unfortunately gets hurt, or after the draft. Maybe the Raiders they wanted Michael Penix or something, and they didn't get him. So let's get Justin Fields. And trade a second round pick in the future, even though they just signed Gardner Minshew. But the league is telling you they don't want him because they could have him. Anyone can have Justin Fields right now, Matt. The league is telling you no. It's
It's
telling you
pretty
no. So
fascinating, man. I think I mean, I think that they had an opportunity probably and they missed it. It's like as soon as Cousins moved, then all these other dominoes fell. But we'll see. I mean, I think it feels like the Bears are going to blow this somehow. And like to your point about the Caleb thing, it's like, hey, Chicago, like even if you're not going to take Caleb, like you're taking a quarterback. Like if you
yes,
find something wrong with Caleb and you're like, cool, Jaden Daniels is it. Like you're taking Jaden Daniels. Like they could have moved off of Fields a long time ago. Like when maybe it was Atlanta or maybe it was Vegas. Like somebody would have been like, thank God we can go into free agency with our quarterback. So I really think that was a missed opportunity, but we'll see how that goes. Um,
and
Go
there's
ahead.
a chance that I think there's a chance that you know I don't even know the great example. Like New England drafts Jaden Daniels, and they say we want to, and they just signed Brissett though, right?
Yeah.
We want a quarterback that can move like Jaden Daniels. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe they go with Fields. They just signed Brissett, so maybe not. Again, like all these teams have backups too. Like could Fields go in the backup role of like a Trey Lance? He's better than Trey Lance, but I don't know. The league is telling you how they feel about him, and not great. I guess I don't
Not
know what
great.
else to say, man.
Not a
The
great
market
sign.
is the market is the market.
So,
What other free agent moves did you like, Matt?
well, I want to
Anything?
quickly touch on that
Yeah.
because the Brissett and your boy Marcus Mariota was signed by the Commanders today. I think that every time I'm on this show, I know Gabe and I are going to sort of split off. I think it's important for us to have a conversation about the number 2 pick. I just want to check in and just let you know kind of where I am each time we record because I do a thorough evaluation of film. I don't know if you know this about my process, Geoff, but I go really deep into the film where every couple weeks I watch the top recommended Drake May or Jaden Daniels highlight and come out of that with a fully formed opinion about who Adam Peters, the GM who everyone's been gassing up for years, should take. So right now, Geoff, I've waffled. I think the pick should be Jaden Daniels. That's where I am today. But I'm curious where you are with the way that the top 3 are going to shake out.
Do you like this? Like, do you like this feeling of drafting a quarterback?
Do I like this?
Because the Commanders haven't done this since 2012, right?
Yeah,
Quarterback and
and
high
then
in the
before
draft is
that, they
RG3.
hadn't done it since, Heath Schuler, I think. So it's
Yeah,
like it's been who might be your congressman? I don't know. It's
I think he's in
been
Pennsylvania.
I can't remember. Um, no, I don't like it. I feel like there's a lot that could go wrong with this pick, and you never want to be at the top of the draft. But I will say I do like the way the Commanders have approached free agency. But for today, I'm going to say Daniels. But check in with me in a few weeks.
I think Daniels is who they're going to pick.
Interesting.
I don't know how much Kingsbury has a say in it, their offensive coordinator, but think about the players he's worked with: Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, the ability to move. Drake
Caleb
May can
Williams.
move, but not the athlete Jane Daniels is.
Yeah,
He's just not. And I think Jane Daniels is going to be their pick in the end. If I'm picking who I think it's going to be, I think the ability to just escape. I mean, because Washington's offensive line right now, they just cut all their veterans, right? Like they got some work to do. They did sign Super Bowl legend Nick Allegretti, three-time
they
Super
did.
Bowl champion for the Chiefs. Who
And the
really glad
Cowboys
look
center Tyler Biadasz.
Biotic. He's good. I like Tyler.
Biadasz.
He works with my guy Duke. A little biased there, but Tyler's awesome. Works his ass off. Good to see him get some money. It's like the one thing I like about this time of year is everyone getting paid. It's just awesome. Like these guys have life changing money put in their direction. For a lot of players not taking the first round, man. I know it sounds odd to say this, but it's a lot of money for it's a lot of money. It's not life changing money. It's not generational money. Guys getting paid the last couple of hours have gotten generational money for the most part, and so I'm really happy for a lot of these players. Markets get set, and then teams go about it and sign players, and these guys, it's a lot of money for a lot of them. So I'm happy for all the players that get in the situation.
Me too. I
The
have a couple
Panthers.
things. Yeah, okay, let's do the Panthers. Let's
Okay,
start. Let's do that.
Okay. David Tepper's just a bad owner. He's just not good at running a sports team.
Yeah.
At least not yet.
I think he's the worst now.
The Panthers have no good football players. They just don't. They traded Brian Burns, which I had to do. Look, I don't mind the trade, Matt. They have a new general manager, Dan Morgan, former Panthers linebacker, new coach, and Dave Canellis. They had to trade Brian Burns, but they could have traded him last year for 2 first-round picks, and they didn't do it. And then they didn't pay him either. They just, for 1 year, they just like kept him on their roster. I'm sure you saw this tweet. I don't know if I sent it. Scott Barrett, at Scott Barrett, DFB. By popular request, combining the Brian Burns, Bryce Young, Christian McCaffrey trades. The Panthers traded what would be the number 1 pick this year, Caleb Williams. They traded Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore. They traded the 2023 and 2024 first-round pick. He kind of doubled that up there because the first-round pick is Caleb Williams at the top.
Yep.
A 2023 second-round pick, a 2025 first-round pick. In exchange, they got 1 year of Brian Burns, Bryce Young. He puts his height right here, which I think is funny. Oregon pass rusher DJ Johnson didn't play well as a rookie, and 2 fifth-round picks. Just
abysmal.
It's
brutal.
Ineptitude at the highest level.
It's crazy, and they should have. I mean, obviously, they should have the first pick in the draft. Like they should be able to. Like that's the point of the NFL is you should be able to turn things around quickly. And instead, they let some of the Burns and McCaffrey. You can argue are 2 of the best at their position. McCaffrey obviously is, and DJ Moore 6th in the league in receiving last year, like with Justin Fields. It's really sad. I feel for them. I think Canales is like, he said the right things. I thought it was interesting that they've backed so much money into the middle of the offensive line. That's been like an interesting free agency trend that I'm sure is at your radar. Like a lot of guards getting the bag this year. But they have a long way to go before they even reach mediocre. Like they're likely going to be picking first again next year, I think.
So the guard thing is probably to counter all the pass rushers inside now we're seeing. But Robert Hunt, the Panthers gave $63 million guaranteed to, the most of any guard in this cycle, is not known for his pass protection. Like they didn't even really.
He's known for pass receiving.
Well, that also is true as well. So I don't really. The Panthers just. it's hard to win with inept inept owners, Matt. It's hard. You know that you're a Commanders guy.
Can
It's just
confirm.
it's just hard. You have just this like just this sludge around your team, man, like this bad juju with a bad owner, and so Commanders just Commanders are fine now. Obviously, we'll see, but the Panthers have bad ownership. They have bad leadership at the very top. They're not going to be good till Tepper decides to remove himself from all football decisions.
Yeah. The Brian Burns thing is tough. Great move for the Giants, who I think have had a great
I
free
like it.
agency. I'm kind of curious, are there any teams, maybe we can just go back and forth on a few who have had really good free agency starts so far that who you want to highlight, and then maybe we can do some we don't like quite as much.
Well, the Giants got two offensive linemen and Brian Burns. They did sign Drew Lock, which is kind of funny. I don't know where he fits in, maybe backup for them.
Yeah, they'll let Tyrod go for him. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the Chiefs re-signed Chris Jones. They're gonna trade Snead. They let their punter go for Matt Ariza. I mean, not half bad. I'm trying to think who else, top of my head.
How about Houston? Houston's a team they've like completely loaded up. They traded for Joe Mixon today, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, they did, yes.
They added on the pass rush. They added Danico Autry. They brought Dalton Schultz back. They've brought in a bunch of defensive players. They signed Tommy Townsend from the Chiefs. Like, I just feel like I'm really happy to see the Texans basically say, like, yeah, we've got a really good team. Like, now let's go add to it. It feels like all of the moves that they've made, they brought somebody back on, I think, on the offensive line too. I just think that they've done a really smart job of keeping the guys who have mattered to them, but also adding pretty aggressively.
Yeah, well, look, they have a young quarterback on sort of a win now, mode because of the young quarterback. Matt, it's cheap, right? They get him cheap.
Yep.
So exactly. Makes sense. Who anyone you don't like?
I thought that the Philly thing with Saquon, and we can talk about the running backs maybe as part of this, I thought the Saquon thing was a really interesting allocation of money. They just lost, literally the center and heart and soul of their team in Kelsey and Cox. But, this is what the Eagles do. And it feels like every couple cycles with Howie Roseman, they get into this like dream team situation where, last year they traded 2 picks for DeAndre Swift, and everyone loved that. Everyone was going crazy for, DeAndre Swift, what another smart move by Howie Roseman, and he leaves in free agency, and now they give all this money to Saquon Barkley, who is better than Swift, is a really good player, obviously, can potentially like blow up behind that offensive line, but it's like, is that really what you need to do, first of all? And second of all, like, is that, how much better are you? Like, I don't think I think that there's like bigger systemic problems with Philly. And that's not exactly the way I would have spent the money, but it's hard to knock them for taking a good player. It has that dream team vibe kind of feel. Remember the year with Vince Young and they were just like, we have everything. We're loaded too deep everywhere. And then Howie Roseman essentially got demoted for Chip Kelly after that. Like, I kind of feel like they're in danger of kind of like going over their skis here.
Well, I guess that the question I have for even the running back position in general is there was a huge shuffle. Well, like 12 running backs were on the move. Why didn't teams just sign their own running backs? They end up paying for running backs anyways, just sign different players. It's kind of odd, right? Teams either downgraded and pay or upgraded and pay, obviously, but they could have just kept their own. And like they could have paid less to keep Swift instead of Barkley, right?
Yeah, I mean, Swift ended up getting similar money, but yeah, it's sort of like they could have done that in the offseason for way less.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, Saquon to me doesn't change how I feel about the Eagles.
Yeah, but it's like, wouldn't you rather have had them, I don't know, fix their defense with that money? Like, their problem wasn't running the ball. It's like, does a star running back like improve you that much? Yeah. I don't think so. Swift was dominant for them down the stretch last year. They actually were really good running the ball.
They signed Huff too, the pass rusher from the Jets.
Yeah, and I'm like not that big of a fan of either, to be honest.
Interesting. So I was listening to the Athletics football show with Robert Mays and Nate Tice. Nate brought something up interesting. I didn't know this. he's not played more than like 480 snaps in a season.
Yeah,
That's not a
exactly.
lot. That's half at most of a season. I think he brought up like Max Crosby played like 800. He's never even played a full season of reps. And
Yeah.
now you still have Reddick, you still have Sweat. You got to get rid of one of them probably. Yeah, I don't know what the Eagles are doing.
Which again, this time last year we were like Sweat and Reddick and
Yeah.
Jalen Carter. It's like they had the whole thing, and they have that kind of like fantasy football feel of like strength on strength on strength, and it's like, is this actually improving you? I don't know.
I
Like
wonder if they'd be in like L'Jarius Sneed discussion because they need cornerbacks. They need to go young. Like I wonder if there's an Eagles move that's still to be had.
Can I make a fake trade for you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
L'Jarius Sneed for T. Higgins.
Yeah, so T. Higgins obviously wants to be traded. So here's the one thing about T. Higgins that I think I have the most trouble with is, are the Chiefs going to pay him after this year? Are they going to or there's a 1-year rental for, like, you can make the argument they get a second round pick for Sneed. Just draft a receiver in the second round.
I mean, yeah,
instead of Higgins.
that makes more sense, and they can't really pay anyone anymore. I think.
Well,
Is
I mean, they can't restructure Mahomes' deal and Tooney's deal. Like they can do that if they want. The question is how much they want to keep pushing money, like a Tooney pushing money in the future. They can totally do that if they want to. They can find ways to create money. But Chris Jones, I want to talk about Chris Jones resigning fairly quickly because I think this is important discussion about positional value. Is the Chiefs are paying Chris Jones a premium because you can't find Chris Joneses very often. You can find L'Jarius Sneeds, you find other defensive backs, which is they decide between paying Sneed and Chris Jones. Just how many other Chris Jones are there in the NFL? Aaron Donald. End of story, right? Like who else? Christian Wilkins, who just signed for $1 bazillion, is not Chris Jones.
Correct.
I'm telling you, even who else would be in the discussion right now would be close to Chris Jones.
Nobody really. Quinnen Williams, maybe.
I'm sure I'm missing someone. Leonard Williams, Quinnen Williams. I mean, there's nobody like him. And you're paying him all this money for the playoffs. It is true. He disappears for half a season. You're like, you look at a box score, you're like, oh, Chris Jones, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 for the entire game. You're like, oh, where was he at this game? And then you get to the playoffs and you look at the box score, it's like 1.5, 8 pressures, 2 hits, and 4 tackles for loss. You're like, oh, okay, yep, that works. That I'll pay for that guy.
It's kind of like Travis Kelce now. Like he did the same thing. Like he just didn't really do anything all season, and then in the playoffs, he is unbelievable.
The Chiefs are in an interesting position where they are, they are basically like the Patriots were with Tom Brady, where it's like let's just sort of get to the playoffs healthy,
Yep.
And the Chiefs are in that spot right now. Like, we want a home playoff game, maybe 2, maybe 3, but we got to get there with Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, and Patrick Mahomes all healthy, and now Rashee Rice and our tackle. So let's run out with the Chiefs. Anything else before we get to? I have some fun. Some fun gambling stuff.
Dallas not doing anything, lost a lot of guys. That was kind of
probably
interesting.
Good. I mean, dude, the teams that don't do very much in the free agency typically do well during the season.
I mean, when you look at what's going on, I mean, I don't think Tony Pollard was a big loss, but it's interesting that they weren't in the Joe Mixon or Derrick Henry market. It's you look. I don't think Dowdle's even on the roster now. I think it's just Deuce Vaughn who's actually under contract. So that's an issue. They're going to lose Tyron Smith. They lost their center. They lost their defensive coordinator and like his number 2, essentially both to Washington. They lost somebody up front also to Washington. Like they're losing some guys. And this is what happened. This is sort of what happens with Dallas is like you realize their window was kind of the year before and then they lose 5 guys and then they've been lucky. Like they lose Trayvon Diggs last year, and Deron Bland becomes like this amazing, turnover machine. I think at some point, like they're gonna run out of house money to play with. So that's one that I have my eye on. I thought the Giants had a nice free agency, although they're a really strange quarterback situation. I'm not really sure what they're doing there. Um, I thought, and yeah, I thought Washington had a pretty nice day yesterday. Was really happy to see our friend Austin Eckler, who's somebody a colleague of ours here at Blue Duck Media, land with Washington. That was fun for me personally, but I thought they were doing the right thing for the most part. I don't know. Love Houston. Go
Oh,
ahead.
what about Derrick Henry and the Ravens?
I love that. I think that one, like, I think he's the exact kind. That's the exact kind of situation where you want Derrick Henry, a powerful offense that knows how to run the ball. I think the Keaton Mitchell pairing is like super interesting. Like that's like a really interesting range of different kinds of plays they can make. And that guy's just like a punishing badass. Like, talk about the playoffs. Like, imagine if he was around in that Chiefs game. Like, could they have run the ball a little bit better? Could they have like gotten a lead and held on to the lead a little bit more and like taken the ball out of Lamar's hands? I love that move for them. Did you?
I liked it a lot too. To me, they still look. I think they still have to win with Lamar being a passer, but this, I think, to your point, takes a little bit of pressure off him in the postseason. And in the regular season too, like, okay, no, I think Lamar does not get hurt running the football, but I think you just want to make sure to kind of lessen the load on him having to be your offense, right? And this does it by adding Derrick Henry. You have a downhill rushing attack, which is what Henry does well. He's not a big, he's not like a guy who's going to juke behind the line of scrimmage and make a lot of moves. He's a downhill runner. So I liked it a lot. It was a good signing. And it would pay dividends for them. My last thought on all of this before I get to some fun things. Draft slot will always matter for your longevity of your career. All right. So when you see guys like Mariota signing, Sam Darnold, it's because they were high draft picks. Just remember that. Draft slot bias continues. It will always be the thing. And if your favorite team signs a player you think for too much money, look at their draft slot. It matters.
Yeah, it does. Spoken by a 7th round pick who I know maximized his career. Honestly, like, you did that. And I think that, you've said it before, and I didn't really appreciate it until we became friends, where I was like, oh yeah, like if Geoff was drafted in the 2nd round, like he probably would have snuck an extra deal in, or an extra, couple bucks.
Absolutely. And instead I'm just stuck doing podcasts with you. So
hey man, this is the best case outcome.
It
Seattle,
is by far.
A team I don't know what the hell they're doing. There are a few others that I'm Chargers interesting going with Gus Edwards. Like, I very, very curious with some of these teams. But one other team I wanted to mention, the Rams. I love what they're doing. Like, they're spending a lot on protecting Stafford up front. They basically, like, their self-scouting, I think, is like the same scouting the rest of us have on the Rams, where they're like, yeah, if Stafford's in the game, like, we can beat anybody. Like, so let's just protect him and figure it out. So I'm curious to see what they do on defense, because they obviously have to improve there, but love their offensive line moves.
Yeah, they got Jonah Jackson. They got they re-signed Dotson, and Steve Avila's going to center, who I love. Steve. So we did Big Boys Club with Avila 2 years ago. We went to Fogo de Chao for a lunch, and we filmed it. And Avila took like a 15-minute poop, and we were all like 40 of us were eating together, and we all gave him a standing ovation when he came back in. So that was fun for him. All right, Matt, you want to get to some fun gambling talk?
Please. So for context, why don't you explain why we're talking about this?
So North Carolina has legalized sports wagering. It happened yesterday. I made my first bet yesterday. FanDuel had a $50 max wager on if the Hornets score 1 point or more, you get plus 100. Made $50 last night. These promotions are ridiculous. I have like 4 free $25 wagers. What am I going to do with those, Matt?
I don't know. Like, going to get into some NBAs, maybe save them for March Madness. Maybe. That's kind of fun.
March Madness. So here's the deal. So I gamble, and I've gambled lower amounts than people would expect. It's not been a lot of money, considering what I have. And one of the reasons why was because I I'm rich, FYI.
Maybe it's from all these illegal tax deductions you're making.
What that is true. We're trying to deduct a lot from our taxes this year. My thing with the taxes is like these billionaires don't pay anything in taxes. Like, where's my?
That's
I'm not
right.
a billionaire, of course, but like, give me like,
Are you
where's
paid for
my
this
tax
podcast?
breaks? What?
Are you paid for this podcast?
For this one, no, I don't think I'm getting paid for this specific one. That ended like 4 weeks ago. So, geez, now I'm all over the place. I'm thinking like Bernie Sanders talking about his tax and all the rich people. And so I told I have not bet a lot because I don't trust the offshore accounts to give me my money back. That's mostly why, right? Like I just haven't trusted it. So I finally told my wife we're on vacation in Cancun this weekend. Like, hun,
Nice.
if you see some withdrawals in the bank account for some gambling apps, like I'm going in now. Like we're doing it. And she officially knows I think I gamble now, Matt. I told her we're going for I gotta
Now?
she told me she's like she has no idea what I do. Just zero idea of what I do. Which is
We've been
good
doing
and bad, I
gambling
guess.
content together for like 6 years.
My wife
You were employed by the Action Network, which is about betting. Like like checks came from a gambling company to your house. Like
I do
maybe she thought you were just an expert.
I do gambling with Bear Bets and Fox Sports. Doesn't matter. To gamble on this show. My wife is brilliant when it comes to work stuff. Outside of work, man, I'm like, I've been doing a podcast with Gabe and Matt for 5 years. She's like, nope, no idea. Like, she knows I do my podcast, but I don't think she knows who I do it with. Besides the point, I told her I gamble now.
Knows us. We know her.
Oh,
she's met my wife. We
went to dinner. We went to dinner. We met you guys in Venice before. We met in freaking Spain. We had dinner one night in Spain at all places.
That's right.
The suckling pig is still waiting for us to eat again. And so I told her like I gamble. Like it was like alcohol. It was like AA. Like I'm gambling now. So I put money in. I got a text from someone on one of the apps. Like, I see you donated X amount of money. I'm a VIP customer service person. I would like to make your acquaintance. It's like, okay, well, I'm not answering you back. So,
interesting.
We're in now. We're in now.
Well,
I upped my unit size. My unit size has been upped.
All right. Do you want to reveal it, or does the gentleman never tell?
It depends. It depends on what I'm doing. How much my unit size will be.
I will say that Geoff actually taught me to bet less because I started, and like when I started betting, like, and this is, if you're starting out, like, you're probably betting too much. Like, I came in and I was like, oh, like a Sunday, like, I don't know, like $50 a game, $100 a game. And I was like, wait, if you're going to do this every week, it adds up. And if you have like, if you're betting on sports and you're not like and you're listening to what we think, you're not good at it because we're not good at it. So like, honestly, just bet less. Like, it should not be a factor in like your day-to-day finances. If you're like,
correct.
If losing $50 in a weekend ruins things for you, like bet $2 a game. Yeah. Like just do it for fun. That's all it's there for.
So I've this is a great way. This is my gambling PSA is you should only wager the amount you're willing to lose.
You have to assume all losers.
If you're willing to lose $100 on a weekend, $1,000, $10,000, whatever it is, then it's same like theory when you go to Vegas, right? When I go to Vegas, I take $1,000 with me. That's it. I'm only going to lose $1,000 gambling. Of course, you spend more money on other stuff, like whatever it is, right, Matt?
$1,000. How long's your trip? 2 hours?
Well,
what are you talking about?
The problem is I like to play craps. Like, $1,000 can get you out pretty fast on certain tables, on certain minimums, on certain days.
Confirmed.
But nonetheless, my point is like I just bring the $1,000 and say that's it. When I'm out, I'm out. But yeah, I used to gamble a lot. I gamble on a lot of things. I don't gamble as much money, and I don't gamble. Well, I guess I'll gamble more money now, but on less things. So yeah,
here's what you should do.
I'm excited.
I'm going to give you a life hack.
Okay.
So you've got till the NFL season.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this, Geoff probably doesn't need to do this. If you're listening to this and you were like, I don't, whatever, March Madness, some NBA playoffs, whatever. Set up a little auto deposit account now where you're putting in $10 a week or whatever from your paycheck, and you just put it into account and you just go like, whatever. And then you'll look up in September and there'll be like $600 in it. And you can be like, do I want to gamble this? Do I want to save some of this? But like, it's money you didn't even think about. And you can just put, you can bet it and not even feel it. And I think that's a good way to approach your off-season betting. What do you think of that strategy?
I like that. I like that strategy. My goal is to get my accounts from now until football season up to a level where I can do the full $10,000 that we wager, like plus have money left over for everything else. Yeah.
Damn. All right, buddy. Well, good luck
That's
with
the
that.
goal.
Famous last words.
I think I'll get there because there's a couple of people I fade that are really bad, and you can make money pretty fast fading them. So the problem is basketball season is almost over, and I don't think they post anything after basketball season. So we'll see. Yeah. Okay, it's one person.
Correct.
All right, buddy. I think we did it.
We did it. Yeah. We did it.
Anything else? How's the baby doing?
Baby's good. 3 straight nights of sleeping through the night. Or like life-changing, man. Like so different.
Do you wake up in the middle of the night like a sweat? Like, why is the baby so quiet?
Not anymore. The first night I did, but he's only slept through the night 4 times, and 3 of them have been in a row. So
how old is he now?
4.5 months.
Yeah, 4 months is when they do it. Yep.
Yeah. So big changes. Yeah, man. I feel like if I had gone back and someone had said like, when does this like stop becoming the worst nightmare of all time and then become like a little bit less of a nightmare and a little more fun? 4 months really is it. So I'm excited to see what something beyond this even is. But yeah,
he's better every stage to where like, you know, your daughter's asking you to buy stuff at Ulta for her because she's out of her skin moisturizer.
Ulta. Wow, Geoff. Did you ever think?
No.
One day you're blocking Myles Garrett, and the next day you're at Ulta.
Yeah. I never would have thought. All right, everyone. We'll be back next week. I don't know. We'll talk more football next week. Got maybe some March Madness features next week, Matt. We'll be back next week. But have a good rest of the week, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Take care, everybody.
See you, buddy.